Hi, this is Aaron from Bellwether Insurance. I'm here with Nate from Greenline and Telnamics. What's the subject today, Nate?
We are going to talk about business continuity and business interruption insurance.
All right. So, part of a cyber liability insurance plan comes with the good ones anyway. Come with business interruption insurance, both for your business and what we call dependent business income, which if you have a business that you rely on to provide your services, such as a great example would be is if you're renting rack space and they have a breach, you can claim business interruption insurance if it affects your business and you can't move forward until they fix that breach or you come up with a different solution.
So that would be just any platform you rely on that isn't in your own business.
Yep.
Like, say, QuickBooks hosted or QuickBooks Online.
It's hard for me to envision like something like that, like a software program.
Well, I have an example for you if you want to.
Yeah, no. Shoot me an example. Perfect.
So I have a customer that they had all of their accounting software hosted by a company. They were using QuickBooks, so I don't want to blame QuickBooks specifically.
How many more times do you want to drop their name?
QuickBooks. Anyways, so they were running their accounting software, and the hosting company actually got hit with CryptoLocker. So I think they were down for 3 or 4 weeks without access to their accounting data.
3 or 4 weeks?
Yes.
Wow.
While their hosting company figured out whatever they had to at their servers, restored backups, whatever, all they had to do to get that access back. My understanding was they spent hours on the phone every day trying to be, first in line getting the data back because, of course, you're mixed in with 1,000 other clients. You're going to get your data back whenever and wherever you fall in line on that. So in that case, you can't invoice, you can't pay your bills.
Yeah.
There's a lot of problems going on there. So
Yeah.
I'm assuming in that situation it's a catastrophic business event.
Yep, that certainly sounds like dependent business interruption. Each claim is different, but yes.
It's certainly unexpected because everybody thinks,
Right.
oh, I'm on the cloud, I'm covered.
Why is it that
forever.
everybody has that illusion? Like, it's in the cloud. They love throwing that word.
I don't know, because it takes away the responsibility, I guess. So.
Yeah, no, business interruption is an important facet of your cyber liability suite. It's actually under a property. We call it cyber liability still, ironically enough, but it's actually much more than just liability insurance. There's some property coverages there too. Business income actually falls under property. Mm-hmm. So yes, a good cyber liability policy is going to have both business interruption insurance as well as dependent business interruption insurance. If you're a subcontractor or anything like that also. So it's an important thing. Like I said, 4 weeks, the world can end in 4 weeks. Right. At the speed of what businesses are moving today, I can't even imagine. Yeah, if somebody doesn't have that in place, that's absolutely something they'd want,
Right. And then there's more comprehensive claims I can think of. Like we had a customer where they had all their servers on site, all their infrastructure, and a car went through a telephone pole down the street and took out their power and internet for 2 days. So they were shut down for 2 days with no access to anything because there wasn't a real business continuity plan on how to run in that scenario, and they couldn't do anything about it. It wouldn't matter if they had a generator because internet was still taken out. So that whole area was down.
There's actually 2 things that come into play there. So, and it's not under cyber liability. So, you actually have a coverage in your property, your basic, your property liability package. If you have a commercial package or what we call a business owner's policy for utility services, time element. Utility services basically means if you have an interruption like that, the business interruption insurance off of your main policies would address that. Okay. As long as you had the coverage in place. Kind of an unusual event. It's strange. But that brings up
it all now. We're big enough. We see a lot. So
we've seen that. Yeah. No, But interesting that you said, you know, they didn't have a backup plan. I mean, part of just good risk management, folks. I mean, you know, we love to do insurance, and, you know, but insurance is only one part of risk management. It's the part where you finance the risk that you can't handle yourself, or, you know, that you simply need to finance away from your company.
Right.
But having a disaster plan in place is crucial as part of your risk management strategy, you know, to deal with situations. You know, what are you going to do? What are you going to do when you don't have access to the internet? What are you going to do when you don't have power?
Right.
We're in LaGrange, Ohio. Not too many decades ago, an F4 tornado rolled right through here. You know, besides get out of the way, you know, what are you going to do? What are you going to do the day after?
Right.
You know, you have to have a set plan. You know, I mean, you can't just hope that nothing bad happens. I mean, having a disaster plan is, I'm sorry, but that's business 101.
Well,
I mean,
the big thing is, you know, we're looking at a few years difference in technology. You know, it's a little bit of an older story, but the nice thing out of that, time changes everything. A lot is available to small businesses that wasn't even 3-4 years ago. So you
like
can,
what?
Server space is cheaper, and more stuff is going cloud based. So, you know, where you'd be spending a fortune on some products, now it's just considered a normal subscription.
Well, I know you've told us over the years, you know, you've helped us, you know, measurably. But you've told us over the years, you know, like, we'll have a backup access to the internet. You know, and I'm like, oh, that seems redundant, but redundancy is good. You're
Right.
absolutely right. We should have a backup to a backup so that we can move seamlessly from one point to the other in case, you know, the unlikely happens and we, for whatever reason, lose power, electricity,
Right.
anything. I mean, and it doesn't just apply to internet, it applies to everything.
Right.
So, yeah.
Well, I had one customer, were hit with substantial flooding. So you wouldn't think you needed to have your server and stuff multiple feet off the floor. In this case, they did.
Yeah, you wouldn't think that. Depends on where your
Right.
business is.
So their server
New Orleans?
No, it was here in Cleveland. They were hit with this flood, and they lost their server. They lost their backup unit because it was also fairly low to the ground. I guess when you're looking at feet of water, what isn't? And they ended up restoring everything from our cloud backup system, but they were still down for days because.
But they did have off-site backup.
Yeah, they didn't lose any data. It happened in the middle of the night. So other than, you know, their whole business being shut down from a flood, you know.
Well, at least they still had their backbone in place.
Right.
I mean, you know, and a lot of people still think, you know, and I've run into businesses too. I mean, still today that backup on-site only. You know, with like a hard drive or, dare I say it, you know, discs. You know, I mean, weird stuff like that. You know, and stuff that's completely outdated.
Yeah.
You know, because they fear the cloud. You know, the
Right.
cyberspace. But the truth of it is, everything's encrypted. You know, I mean, it's pretty secure.
Right. Well,
If it's done correctly.
and that's important too, bringing that up, because there's a lot of businesses I meet with like the first time, and I say, okay, what do you guys do for backups? And they're like, well, we have this hard drive we swap out and take home every night. And I'll call them out on it. I'll say, so if I plug that in right now, how old's the data? Oh, well, it's actually a couple weeks old. It's blah, 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 blah. It's been going on, and we just haven't paid attention to it. Like, okay, well, there's 2 or 3 weeks of data loss you could easily have right there.
Yeah, and
Because-
how long does it take to
and
rebuild
there's-
that?
Yeah, and there's always something going on. Like, you can't count on one employee to properly handle it, because you never know what's going to happen.
Well, plus the huge liability of carrying around a hard drive that I'm sure is pretty. I'm guessing at this, but I'm sure it wasn't encrypted or bit locked or anything crazy like that. It was just probably a hard drive you could plug into any
Right.
computer, and then there's all the files.
Right.
You know, that's not a huge
And
liability.
self-managed backups are a huge liability.
Yeah, I mean, you know, just carrying around not only that, but password books. You know, I begrudgingly admit that sometimes I write my password places because, you know, but bad news.
Right.
Yeah,
Or worse, putting it in a spreadsheet on your desktop.
a spreadsheet.
I've seen that too many times too. Like, oh, let me just open my password spreadsheet. Like, well, that's
Well, there's programs for that now. I mean, you can
Yeah,
use
LastPass. Is
yeah,
a great
last
one.
passes, yeah. But back to the subject, business income, it's a lot of people don't think about that, but if you get hit, it takes a while to build back. I mean, and if you're out of business for, a week is a lifetime.
Right.
If you're running a business, and
Well, even a fairly small business, if they're down for a day, can easily cost them 50 grand.
sure,
So it adds up fast.
absolutely.
And that's just lost labor, or lost productivity. It's not even, dealing with what the cost of the downtime was.
Right, or rebuilding or
Right.
restoring data. Yep, definitely. So yeah, well, good talk, Nate.
You just
If
totally cut me off.
did I cut you off again? What were you gonna say?
I was just going to say, the big thing is you need to have a plan for your business, for business continuity.
Absolutely.
Plan for the disasters. So you need a
It starts with a disaster plan, right?
Right.
And
think of the things that probably won't happen, but have a likelihood.
but could happen. And you know what? And that goes back to flying. I like to fly really silly things.
Mhm.
And you never go flying with just one layer of protection.
Right.
You have to have a backup for everything.
Right.
If this breaks, I got this. Otherwise
Right.
you're going to fall out of the sky, and that doesn't end well.
Yeah.
Usually.
Usually not.
But yeah, it starts with that, and then you back it up with a proper, cyber liability policy, and quite frankly, good commercial insurance or business insurance,
Right.
where that protects you from loss of income because your business has been incapacitated temporarily for an insurable event.
Yeah. You can't prepare for everything, but
Nobody
you can
can.
do a pretty good job.
You
of
could
it.
do a really good job. Yeah, you can pretty much almost guarantee yourself that you're not going to have issues if you plan accordingly.
Right.
But
All right.
it sounds good. It sounds